Evening, everybody. What's going on? I am Ebook, and I, of course, am the Nighthawk, and this is the I Am NightHawk Podcast. Welcome, welcome. We are here this evening to discuss some of the things that I think about at night as I listen to the breezes and watch late night TV and do all the things that Nighthawk people do. So, main thing on my mind this evening is what's going on with the situation involving mass shootings. We will have that discussion this evening and kind of work out some of the things I worked out in my head and just kind of gave some of your thoughts as well in regards to that. But also, of course, I'll give you an update on what's going on with my health, and we will talk about a couple other things that's been in the news cycle during the course of the week as well. So we'll have those discussions also. But today, I am Nighthawk, and this is what I think about in regards to the situations that have come upon us that now equal part of our new normal, which is the situations going on with the mass shooting situations. There we go. No, no, okay. All right. Sorry about that. Trying to get sound situated here. Okay. So here's the thing, good people. We are now headed toward the month of March. And already here in the country, we have had over 70 mass shootings here in these United States. Basically, a mass shooting, by definition, is any shooting involving three or more people, and we have had 70 plus of them. Basically, one for every day this year. In the last 2, 3 years, let's put it to 2020, we've had over 200 of these mass shootings. And the problem is that okay, when all is said and done, we look at it and it's like, okay, more people have died. What do we do? What do we do? And the thing is, I think we need to look more about what's truly causing this. Yeah, I know we talk about mental illness and access to firearms and all of that. And of course, that is definitely part of the discussion to be had. But I think we really need to look at the focus of why this continues to happen so very much, particularly in this last 2, 3 years or so. So that's basically what I've been thinking about. So let me put on my thinking glasses here. Of course, I wear these sometimes because, especially in taking this new medication, light makes my eyes kind of sensitive. So if you wonder why the sunglasses sometimes, that is why. But we really need to figure this thing out so we can try to come to some type of true solutions toward fixing it. I need to point out that understand that these things do happen in other parts of the world, but not to the extent that they seem to do here. And there's reasons for that. There's a difference in mentality when it comes to some of this stuff, and this is just different in policy when it comes to certain these things. I mean, plain and simple, in other parts of the world, guns are not readily available to the public. Okay, plain and simple. As U.S. citizens, we, and I would say the majority of we, because that's part of why I feel this way, have determined that yes, we have to be able to lawfully own guns, period. And anything impeding that is an issue. Now, I'll get back to that part of the argument in a minute. But I really want to look at the focus of okay, what is causing so many people to basically lose it and decide, okay, it's time for many people to die. Not just one person, not just the threat of someone dying, just actually take people out. What is leading to these thoughts? Now, in thinking about it, I realize there are a few things that are different in regards to, say, where we were 30, 40 years ago, back when I was in school, for example. Um, Understand the communications are different. So, one of the key components I want to blame in this new normal is one of these. That would be the good old telephono slash smartphone. Because now this is the communication for many of us. And we use it to learn not only about what's going on with each other, but what's going on in the world at large. When you talk to several people in my circle, many of them will tell you, I don't really watch the news. I don't like to watch the news because most of the news is bad and it's not good for my mental health. I don't like to watch it because it makes me feel some type of way. Now, part of that is because when we turn on our news, this is what we find from day to day. There's been another mass shooting. There's been someone else who's been raped or murdered. There's been somebody who's been kidnapped, someone who's been carjacked. Those are the major stories that they like to start us out with, along with the usual national disasters and such. And that's just not good for some people. They just don't want that bad news like that every day. It wears upon them to the point where they can't deal. But then these are some of the same people that frequent the many outlets of the social media, such as Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, etc., etc. And oftentimes you find a lot of these same stories locked down within the walls of them. So then you take that and you use that information to spread to others as you have your conversations, perhaps throughout your household or throughout your circle. And that leads to other thoughts and other things. Now, when we really analyze the situations, there is a common thread with very many of them. Most of these mass shootings, if not all, almost all, are being committed by males in their early teens, 20s, 30s. There have been some exceptions to that rule, obviously, but for the most part, it has been those types of individuals. And unfortunately, majority of those people have been people of basically non-pigmentation. That being said, I think the common denominator, obviously, that they are male. Yes, there have been one or two incidents that I've heard of a female shooter, but for the most part, they have been male dominated stories. And when we dig a little deeper into these stories, usually these are males who are currently not in relationships. These are males who have had some type of mental situations in the past, or people who have had or been known to gone through some type of severe mental situation to where they don't think the same. For example, in the latest mass shooting involving Michigan State University, it said that the person who was the shooter had issues ever since his mom died. And from that point on, he was not nice and very mean to folks, as he clearly was struggling to deal with that. Now, usually we are learning that these people are showing that there is some situation within their past that is leading them to have these thoughts about taking out people's lives in this violent way. We also know that clearly many of these people know that other people have done so in this manner and they want to do it similarly for whatever reason. But understand you don't have that knowledge without it being broadcasted on the news, on said devices in this modern technology age of where these things happen and we find out about them almost immediately. So the fact that we know these things are going on is leading people to think about them because they are more prevalent in our society to where we can see how they happen and the results. Understand that at least in my lifetime, from what I know of male interactions with other males and females, there's not a lot of discussions that we have in regards to our feelings, period. And I think that is part of the deeper root of this issue. There are only a few of these people because many of these people end up losing their lives or taking their lives and results of these mass murders that are here to truly talk about it. And these people usually don't have much to say in regards to why they have done the things they have done. But I imagine if you could sit down and get them to honestly assess their feelings and talk to them directly to where they would tell you the truth, I think many of them would say that, okay, at some point they were thinking about things and there was not someone who they were comfortable enough with to have the discussion. And from that point on, their mind took over and it led them to come to these dire conclusions. We as a people, particularly in this society, this American society, we find it difficult as men to have these deeper discussions where we sit down and say, hey man, I'm not feeling so good about this, and this is why. This is an issue because when we have people who are oftentimes clear and able to speak their feelings, we oftentimes view them in a negative way. We see them as soft, as punkish, as womanlike, because men are not supposed to respond to their emotions. They're supposed to be basically stoic and you know let their feelings kind of fall to the wayside and what have you. But we have to remember, as human beings, God gave us the ability, both men and women, to feel about many things. When someone dies and they are close to you, normally there's a response where you feel sadness, where you feel hurt, where you feel this sense of loss. In time, some people learn to contend with that, but in time, other people do not. And oftentimes, if you're struggling to do that, we as a society don't focus on, okay, this is something we need to talk about with someone. We oftentimes just let it fester within us and take us to whatever places it takes us to in our mental. And as a result, there's that. Also, we as people, for the most part, want to be accepted in society. We want to be the ones to say, okay, everybody likes me and this is a good thing. But oftentimes there are people in our circle, or at least in the realm of our circle, who we see and they look upon us differently than those who care about us. They, for whatever reasons, don't like us, don't like something about us, and their thoughts and comments oftentimes supersede a lot of the people around us if we allow that to. There's always that situation where you look in your comments and you may get 30 positive comments, but then there's that one negative comment that sits with you and weighs on you because it is human nature to want to be liked and appreciated. And anybody that views you differently oftentimes may be hard for you to contend with if your mindset is a certain way or if you haven't been taught that, you know, don't worry about those types of things. If you haven't had those discussions with people where it's like, okay, don't let negativity rule what you're doing. So as a result of that, I feel like we are weakening, particularly us males, in regards to how we contend with stuff because dealing with our feelings is something we are not practicing on a consistent, regular basis. And as a result, when it comes to truly having to contend with some of our stronger feelings, we are not capable of dealing with them properly because we have been not conditioned to do so or taught even not to, for that matter. That is part of what leads up to being in a place where suddenly now I am angry or hurt and I want to lash out. And I want to lash out in a way that's going to not only hurt more people than myself, but cause a permanent hurt on top of that. I want them to truly feel how I feel in this moment. And I feel at this moment that all is lost. And as a result of that, I now need to take this matter in my hands with these weapons and deal with it in this way. Now, in an ideal world, is there a way we could just test everybody's feelings from day to day? Is there some magical device, much like this, where we could just plug it in and be like, okay, how you feeling today? If you feeling like this, and this, okay, I need you to stop whatever you're doing and talk to somebody immediately. I imagine we could come up with something like that if we truly put our minds to it. But because more than likely we will not, we got to figure out some way to where we can reach the people who are feeling this way and help to bring them to a different conclusion than what is going on now. As we sit here tonight and have this discussion, there is someone somewhere planning to do this hideous act yet again in some part of these United States. And in an ideal world, you would hope some broadcast discussing these things like this one would reach them and choose them to see that this is not the way to do it. But more than likely, it is not. Now, having the thought process is part of the issue. Having the means to carry out said thoughts is the other half of the equation. Understand, let's go back 50 years ago. How many gun shops did we have at that point in America? What were the gun laws like 50 years ago? Understand, weapons, guns, ammunition, big business. When you look at the last 10 years, what has made the most money in terms of goods and services and what have you, guns is right up there among the top. It's right up there with pharmaceutical sales and cars and anything else you could think of. More and more people are buying weapons in large quantities, and that's just from what we know from things that's being purchased in stores. This is not even accounting for the illegal purchases of guns and ammunition that we cannot account for because they're not on the books. I would say fairly, at least every 2 out of 3 households has somebody that has a gun within it, at least one. And the way weapons are made today, they are seemingly made to be able to fire off several rounds at a time, but also can be adjusted to fire even more rounds at a time. This would be a different story if we were back in, say, the 20s and 30s, where guns, for the most part, were bang, 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 before they started making machine guns and other such weapons of mass destruction. Now, I have said in past podcasts that, I am against weapons of mass destruction, but I am for guns because the way America is set up, you kind of have to make a choice. And because we are not only a capitalistic society here in America, but more importantly, a materialistic one, where we tend to value our belongings over most all else, it is important for us to feel that we are able to protect said valuables by any means. And obviously, for most of us, the best way to do that is by having some type of weapon on the property, so that in the event that someone attempts to take our belongings, we are able to protect ourselves against that. That is why I feel most people are in favor of having some type of weapon. Now, there are some people who basically just view it the way you probably should. All weapons are bad. If they did not exist, we would not have the means to do these things so easily. Perhaps then we would have a different mindset in regards to the killing of others. Understand, again, as I point out, in certain countries, access to guns, period, is so very hard to come by that it just doesn't happen. We don't have these incidents, period. Though I would have to argue that perhaps if in other countries they had as easy an access to guns, both legal and illegal, as we do here in America, we would have more incidents like that across the world, sadly. I do believe that to be true. But like I said, part of I feel is the mentality of that what we have, where we in this particular American society do not feel comfortable discussing our feelings and our problems with others when we need to. And the fact that more times than not, we can find a way, even if we are not able to purchase guns, such as in the case of the person who committed the MSU shooting, to somehow find the ability to still obtain these guns anyway. It is not as hard as it should be. Let's put it that way. Should there be tougher gun laws here in America? Absolutely. Absolutely it should be. That just goes without saying. But for whatever reason, well, let's not sugarcoat it. We know what the reason is. The money is the reason why we can't get to this point. These things have happened virtually every day, every other day, sometimes more than once a day. How many people do we have to see die before we decide whatever financial benefit or whether other benefit it is to have these weapons supersedes that? Does somebody extremely famous need to die? Is there a number in your mind? Is there a number where, okay, this was a problem, but now that these 100 people or these 500 people or these 1,000 people have died in one day, now I'm finally on board with some type of gun control? Yes, in an ideal world, I do not see in America where, okay, we decide we got to get rid of all the guns. We're going to go on people's houses and take their weapons from us. I think we all know that would not end well in many places. I don't think there's a point where it's like, okay, the guns that's currently on the market, we have to get rid of, and we'll get rid of. But in terms of future purchases, future technology, Because, like I said, technology is a key component in this because it is constantly that shoot multiple rounds may become in 10 or 15 years people's laser weapons or who knows what that can kill people instantaneously, blow them up on the spot, make people explode, make people disintegrate for all the hell we know. The technology being what it is now, who knows what's actually being developed by our governments, by other people in other countries that can really eliminate people even quicker than what a gun could do. If we cannot eliminate the thought process behind why do it, and we cannot eliminate the ability to do so, where can we get to a point where we get anywhere with this? If anything, the concern I have is that it may actually get much worse before it gets better. Much worse. Understand, we have been fortunate in that many of these mass shootings have been committed by single individuals. What if we get more people with the Columbine thought process, where multiple people feel wronged in a way and they put their heads together and decide we as a collective are going to take out several people at once and do it in a way to where it's harder for people to figure out who's involved and who's not. Surely there's people with that thought process out there for all we know. And sitting here thinking, okay, we got to wait because we need to figure this out to where not only we succeed in this plan, but we continue it on. Most of these mass destruction situations have been a one-day event. But what if we get a situation where someone has planned and plotted so well what they plan to do that they not only kill multiple people, but find a way to get away with it that day and then come back another day and do it again and again? Then what? How do we contend with that at that point? And you say, okay, well, the solution is to, when we do catch these people and we are allowed to try them in court and let the judicial system play its part in this, when they see that like the person who committed the shootings in Brooklyn gets 10 consecutive life sentences and possibly the death penalty later on down the line, when we see that, perhaps that will deter more people from doing these things? I don't think so. I don't think so, because I think for the end game for most of these people is not to be around to accept the responsibility. They have come to the point where they realize, okay, I'm going to do this thing and I'm probably not going to survive to tell the story. And for some reason, it's okay that I understand that's how it's going to be and I'm willing to contend with it like that. How deep or how many thought processes does it take for you to come to that conclusion and feel like, okay, this is the best route to go? Despite all that, yeah, I still feel the need to kill about 4 or 5 or 10 people. I think we need to look at the fact that many of these cases do not involve women. What is it about the thought process of a woman that is different from men's to cause them to feel like this is not the way to go? Because understand, from my thinking, I think it would be even easier for a woman to access the weaponry necessary to make these things happen, I think it'd be easier for them to set these things up for the simple fact you would not expect them to do so. But in the same token, you have to understand that though I'm sure there's been some women who have been wanting to do such things, that those thoughts have crossed their mind as well. There's clearly something that's holding them back from taking these actions. And I do believe it's because women are taught to discuss your feelings. And they do frequently do it more often than we as males do. So that when they come to times such as these where we feel like the only solution is to take out lives, that they've had enough conversations with people to feel like, no, that's not the route to go. There is that. Clearly, another thing we have to look at is our society is different now, and that violence is more prevalent to our eyes. We have seen more people fight. We've seen more people shoot people. We've seen more violent movies and explosions and what have you. We've become desensitized to this situation. I think some people, they actually don't intend on taking their own lives, but they get in that moment, and as they see the actual bloodshed, they hear the actual screams of people, they see the results of the actual bullets tearing through people's flesh. I think that changes their mind to the situation. I think in that moment they come to that realization of, wow, I've actually shot and killed someone. I can't believe I feel the way I feel right now. There is no getting past it. I can't deal with the consequences thereof. Now I must take my own life. I think it does go down that way with certain people. With others, I feel like their thought process is, okay, I'm doing this and I want to live to deal with the results thereof. I will be famous. I will be the person that people now see in the light that I wanted them to see me in all along. This is my moment to show you, yes, I am real. I have feelings. They have been hurt. And this is the aftermath of what happens when you hurt my feelings, or when you make me feel a certain way, when you bully me, whatever the case may be. I believe they get to that point and say, okay, this is why I'm doing this. Like I said, it would be a lot helpful if we could somehow get into the mindset of these people and have them discuss it openly. I mean, understand that that would probably not make for great television per se, though I think it would be real. Like, just say, for example, the Oxford shooter decides years from now to go on 2020 and do an interview. This is why I did it. I think that would be a program that some people would not want to see and would be upset that it was put on television. But I think that's a program that a lot of people would want to view and would want to know, why exactly did you do it? Because it would help make sense of it all. Perhaps it would even bring closure to a few people. But when all is said and done, we can't keep going through this. This is a trend that we got to find some type of way to, if not eliminate, at least slow down or cause not to happen so often. And understand, as we look at this is not a urban thing. This is not a thing that happens in certain states. This is not a thing that happens with just people of non-color or people of color. This is a thing that has affected all parts of our American society. We've had shootings happen in churches. We've had shootings happen in shopping centers, in schools, in just events. At some point, we have to look at this and we all should be thinking, okay, when do we make some type of serious effort to cut this down before it truly gets out of hand? Before basically we start many wars amongst ourselves, where, like I said, one or more people decide, okay, this is how we're going to live life. And until they catch me or until they can stop me, I'm going to continue to do this. You got to understand there's somebody sitting here right now and they thinking, okay, I want to do this, but I got to wait my turn until I can do it in a way that's going to be different and more devastating to anybody else. They're going to think, okay, I want to be super, super famous and I want to kill many, many people. 5 and 10 and 20 may not be enough. We have to be concerned about these folks. And no, we can't just pin it on, okay, there's a certain psyche. There's just that male individual that has very few friends and no relationships and whatnot. And that's the person that we need to keep an eye on. If that's the case, then I imagine somebody's watching me now, waiting for me to do such things. I have no intention of doing so. As a Christian male of a particular age, raised by Patricia Ann, that is not going to happen. Okay? But in the same token, I must recognize that there are probably many people now thinking that same thing. No, I can never do that. But then things happen in their lives and you start to view things different. And for those people, I say, monitor thyself. Make sure that if you start to feel those types of feelings, that you just don't let it fester and let those thought processes take over your current thoughts. I ask you, the gun owner, why do you own the particular weapons that you own? If you own them because you are a collector and you just like how they look and what have you, if you're a person that use them for hunting or what have you, if you're a person who just basically is in the mindset that, okay, everybody else has one or two or three, I should also have one or two or three. Your mindset is different than those with criminal intent who are saying, I own these guns because I plan on using them. And I plan on using them in a bad way. And I plan on doing it early and often. Those people with that mindset are not going to reveal themselves to you for the most part. There are some people, and clearly we should identify them, because if they continue to commit crimes throughout their lives, develop these long criminal rap sheets, obviously these are people we should keep an eye on. But for those people that are basically sitting in silence, waiting for their moment, we want to be able to try to identify them. But because they don't oftentimes reveal themselves to everyone, we can only hope that in our prayers at night, God continues to watch over us and helps to keep their minds settled to where they don't act on these horrible thoughts that they may have or may be developing. But when all is said and done, people, this is something we can't just sweep under the rug. We cannot become complacent or let this be a thing where we turn on the TV or we turn on our TikTok, whatever, like, oh, another mass shooting. How many this time? Okay, let me make breakfast now. I don't want us to get like that about this. We've gotten like that about so many of the bad things that are going on in our society. This is one I don't want us to develop those types of feelings with. We can't just up and think, okay, well, we know it's going to be a school shooting at some point. Let's at least prepare our kids to know what happens and know where the exits are and know how to use this phone to not only call somebody, but as a weapon in case somebody comes in with a gun. And it's just too much. We should not have to live like this. In other countries, they don't live in this type of fear. They just don't. We get caught up sometimes in the fact, as I often say, that we are Americans and we exist. And there's no other world outside of this. But yet it is. And we have to remember that other people deal with things differently for a reason. And perhaps we could learn from them. Just because this is America does not mean we know everything and we do all the right things. Clearly, we do not. Clearly, we do not. But at some point, good people, we got to figure what can we do to make this stop. And hopefully these are some of the thoughts that you guys have also. If not, you feel free to share in your comments, whether you comment during the broadcast or after this is viewed. I would love to hear from you in regards to what you think we should do or not do, or if it's not really a problem to you, or whatever the case may be. And definitely, if you're somebody who are having those types of thoughts, please seek out help. If you don't know where to go and you need someone to talk to about it, by all means, you can contact me on my messenger, or, if you have my number in real life, please do so, because I'd rather you have that discussion than me live knowing that, okay, you needed to talk and you felt like there was no other person to talk to. Because taking someone's life is the greatest tragedy any human being could commit. And the less of that goes on in the world, the better a world this would be. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. Like I said, share yours if you choose to. I'm going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about a few of the other things that went on in the news, give you some of my quick opinion on that. And we will call it a show after that there. So this is I Am NightHawk Podcast. I am your host, eBuck the NightHawk. And we'll be right back after this commercial.
Black on, get into it. Black on, look at that David Ford right there, that's his thing. Black on, he don't know Tom. Look at that David Ford, that's his thing. He don't know Tom. Yeah. Yes! Oh, here we go. Oh, I can't see the demons. I can't see the demons, but I can see the light.
We are creating black luxury across this country.
All right, we are back. This is the I Am NightHawk Podcast. I am your host, eBuck the NightHawk, and just want to do a couple quick hits before I go this evening in regards to some of the other things going on in the news and in the world. First of all, I want to say kudos to the NFL on another very successful season. I think it was very good. I will probably go into specifics a lot more when we do our sports podcast that is Game Time Audible, which should be returning next week with me and, of course, the sports guru Hugh Lee. But I felt like things went well, and it was a good season. And Kansas City Chiefs are the champions. Congratulations to them. Good outcome to the season. Not a lot of drama outside of football this season in regards to the NFL season, which is always good. In terms of the Super Bowl, the final game itself, I enjoyed the game. It was a good game, one of the better Super Bowls we've had. And of course, I must address the halftime show. There are people who basically did not like it because of the fact that Rihanna was pregnant and not able to perform in a way that was to people's satisfaction. I felt like she did a good job myself. I felt like it was basically it was the biggest baby reveal of all time. When you consider the fact that more people actually watched the halftime show this year than the actual game, which I found interesting. With that being said, I feel like those of you who basically are giving her a hard time about her performance, being a little too harsh. Uh, in the end, if I'm Rihanna, I don't care. I'm worth a billion plus. I'm still gonna get my money. I'm happy. I'm having two kids with someone that I apparently care about very much and are getting along with very well, and I'm happy. So to her, I say kudos and good for you. And again, ASAP Rocky, probably one of the luckiest people on the face of the earth right now, doing well for himself. Fine woman, good strong genes, kids nice and healthy, living his best life with her. Can't be mad at that. You know, it's been several people over the years trying to wrap up Rihanna and be in relationship with her. And I guess with the exception of probably maybe Chris Brown and maybe Drake, most of them basically got so far. So ASAP must be doing something right if he got her to the point to where she wants to have his children and be with him for this long. Can't be mad at him. Not mad at him. He doing his thing. In terms of other things in the news this week, not a lot went on to really discuss per se. Just the usual discussions about politics and of course definitely prayers for the people that are still dealing with the tragedy that is in Turkey and Syria in regards to the major earthquake and all of the many people who have lost their lives over there. Don't ever want to overlook such things. Yeah, we do have our issues here, but at this point, over 40,000 plus people have been found dead over there in those countries, and I really want people to acknowledge that and understand that that is difficult. I mean, if something like that happened here in the United States, we'd be talking about it for the next 5 to 10 years easy. So just the fact that it's happening in another country, we may not focus on it as much. Of course, we still have the war in Ukraine and so many other conflicts happening across the world. But we cannot always turn a blind eye to these things just because it's not happening in our communities. Um, Definitely find it interesting that I think for most of the country, in fact, we are having a very mild winter, and it seems like that is a trend that's continuing. For those people that don't believe in global warming and whatnot, I say Exhibit A. Here I am sitting in Detroit on a day where it was 50 plus degrees in the middle of February. As we got Roll checking in with the show this evening. Hey, Roll, what's going on? Thank you for checking in to the I Am NightHawk show. Appreciate you as always. Please check out Road to Stardom. You can find her on Facebook as well as Instagram and other media outlets. She is doing awesome things with her platform. Please make sure you follow her at Road to Stardom, RTS. We also have Mr. Hunter checking in. Mr. Pride Hunter, what's going on to my good buddy Pride? Thank you for checking in as well, sir. I'm having issues with my mouse today, y'all, so I apologize for not throwing up the comments quickly. For some reason, my mouse is not in its right mindset this evening. There we go. What up, Pride? What up, though? Um, well, people, we're gonna probably call it an evening in regards to the show. Those are my thoughts at this point in time. There are some good movies coming out in the next few weeks. I do believe I'm gonna check a few of them out and try to have some reviews for you. Keep in mind, I'm still finishing up a couple of the Netflix projects. For those of you who are fans of the Upshaws, definitely check out this latest string of shows. Uh, just as good as the others. If you, like I said, understand that because of the language primarily, it is not a show for network television to air, but definitely in terms of your sitcoms, definitely a good one. I do very much enjoy it, and definitely liking the timeline and how they're setting everything up and what have you. Hopefully, they will be doing a season 3 and 4 of the Upshaws. Like I said, I very much enjoyed it. If you are a fan of it, check out the latest episodes that are now airing on Netflix. Definitely give that 2 thumbs up. In regards to anything else, we will talk about it next time I catch up with you guys. So for your boy Ebuck the Nighthawk, I say please stay safe. Please be mindful of your surroundings. Please be mindful of the people in your surroundings. And hopefully, when next time we meet, there will not have been another severe tragedy as the ones we continue to see every day. And that at some point we figure out a way to make these stupid things stop, man. Just tired of it. We got to do better, y'all. We got to do better. So until next time, good people, and understand there will be a intro and outro to the show eventually. I will get around to it. I've been, of course, dealing with my health issues, and we getting better. But sometimes the side effects of these medications and the overall feel makes it a little difficult for me to stay focused and awakened at times where I have time to do these things. So as we start to adjust to them better, that will give me more time to work these things out. So rest assured, there will be an I Am Nighthawk intro and outro and a whole nother canvas and all of that. Just give me a little time, all right? And until that time, I will bid you adieu. Again, this is the I Am NightHawk Podcast. I am Ebuck the Nighthawk, and we will see you next time, y'all. Peace out, baby.